Hello, Math 8. Here we go. Ready to learn? So, this is funny, isn't it? The first thing I gotta say is, this isn't cool. I would much rather be there in class with you. It'd make things easier, be a lot more fun. But this is what we gotta do, I suppose. So, I'm gonna give you an overview of what the rest of the year will look like, assuming we're staying in this sort of situation, online learning. If we go back to school in a month or something, which would be great, and of course things will change a little bit, but I'm kind of going worst case scenario here. So I'll give you an overview for the rest of the year. I'll give you an overview of what each week will look like, and then I'll actually give you the lesson in this video too. I'll tell you a spot in the video. I'll make note of a spot that you might want to pause and take a break. Anyway, let's get started so this isn't too long. So the rest of the year, first thing, you passed. Congratulations. I don't know if you've been told about this, but in all your classes, the lowest mark you can get is whatever you had on the second term. So there might be one, two of you who weren't at 50%, in which case keep working hard so you can get up to 50%. For everyone else who's over 50%, you've passed. You can't fail the course. You can get better and better though, so keep working. You need to learn this stuff. I think this is a good opportunity for us to focus on learning for learning's sake rather than focusing on learning for getting good marks. I mean, it's important to get good marks, but try to think of it for the next couple months. You're just going to learn for the sake of learning because it's important to learn about stuff like probability like we're going to do next. Okay? So here's the stuff we're going to learn. We're going to start off. Oh, yeah, remember, I gave you a project before the break, the long break we've had now. It was on mean, mode, median, and range. I gave you a sheet that described and explained the whole project. I imagine some of you might not have it. If so, well, maybe what I'll do is I'll just send it to you again. Okay, I'm going to send you a whack of stuff after this video, and I'll include that in it. And let's say that that's going to be due in a couple weeks. Okay, what's today? About the 12th. So let's say at the end of the month, that project will be due. Okay. Number 2, probability. We're going to start that today, this week. Number 3, we'll do surface area and volume. And then number 4, we're going to review. Not of the whole year, just of fractions, integers, and algebra. I don't know if you remember this, but I've told you that if you know those 3 topics, you're going to do just fine in grade 9 and actually in grade 10 as well. So we'll do a little bit of review of that at the end of the year. There's a couple of things we're not going to get to because I can't go as fast as I would if I was seeing you in class, but I feel good that we've gone through all the main things we need to know in this course. C, assessment. How am I going to assess you on all this stuff? Well, I'll give you a quiz every 2 weeks or so. I'll make it that you can redo the quizzes, so I'll send them to you. You can print them out, or if you can't print, you can just write the questions and answers on a piece of paper, or just the answers very neatly on a piece of paper. Then you could take a photo and send them back to me. I'll mark them. If you got something wrong, I can send it back to you and ask you to do corrections. And I'll do that every couple of weeks. What I won't do is any tests. I just, it's hard to really ensure that everyone's keeping their books closed and aren't texting each other. So, as I said, we're focusing here on learning for learning's sake, not on learning to get huge, amazing 100% marks. I mean, go for the 100%, but I don't need to assess that. I just need to assess that you're learning the stuff that you're supposed to learn. So we'll go with quizzes from here on out. Okay, here's what will happen every week. I will send you 2 videos every week to watch and to learn from, hopefully. I'll send one on Monday. This is actually the Monday one. I know it's not Monday, but I'm sending you one on Sunday or Monday. And then I'll send you another one on Wednesday. And ideally, I'm going to keep those videos fairly short, like around 7-8 minutes, I hope. Today's going to be quite a bit longer, I'm sorry. And so you'll watch those videos, and then I'll give you an assignment after each video. It'll either be in your workbook or on worksheets that I send you. I'll also send you, if you don't have your workbook, I know probably a lot of you have it at your locker or something, I'll figure out either send you pictures of that, or if I can get a PDF or something, I'll send you that. Okay? And then you're going to hand in both those assignments to me on Friday. So you get 2 a week. They're both due on the same day, on the Friday. You get it to me by 2 p.m. How are you going to get it to me? Again, you can take pictures of it, send it to me on Teams, send it to me on email, whatever works better for you. Okay, that's basically how things are going to work. If you need help, ask anytime. You can send me a text on the Remind app. send me an email, contact me on Teams. I might not get back to you right away, but it probably won't take me too long. I'm pretty good at checking those things. I imagine within 12 hours I'll be back to you. I'll answer as soon as possible. It'll often be very, very quickly. But I also make myself available at these times. Mondays 7 to 9. Oh, wait a minute. I don't want this to cut into my mountain biking time. So I'm going to make this 11 to 1. Then I can get a ride in Wednesday morning. And Thursday as well, 11 to 1. I can get a ride in on Thursday. I mean, the mountain biking is pretty important, you know. So on these times, this 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, I'll be near my computer. If you want to send questions to me, if you want to do some kind of Zoom chat, a bunch of you could come on there. We could do a Zoom chat together or something. That's fine with me. I'll make myself available at those times. But don't wait till those times. Send me questions anytime. All right. This week, probability. So you've already watched, how long? 6 minutes of video. If you figure that's enough, you could stop for a while, pause. I'm basically going to start the first lesson here. So, in fact, I think what I'm going to do is take a little pause myself. I don't think you need to stare at me for the rest of the video. So I'm going to turn the camera off and start up with probability. Probability, we're talking about things like coins and dice and stuff like that, right? What's the probability of getting a 5? That's the sort of thing you're going to do in this chapter. So I'll be back in a minute. If you're gung-ho, you can keep watching. Otherwise, watch the rest of the video some other time. Okay, I'm back, but you can't see me anymore. Good. So probability is the first topic we're going to cover here for the rest of the year. I'll send you this piece of paper. I've probably already sent it to you. If you want to print it out, you can. This isn't, this is for you. If you just want to sit and listen to this video, you can. If you want to write a few things down, I think it might be smart. So if you are able to print the sheet, it might be easiest. Then you can just write the answers in, or you could just jot down some notes. I'm sorry, I'm not going to mail you all the assignments and the handouts. I can't do it. So you'll have to figure out that for yourself. This would be so much nicer if I could ask on people. I know there's people out there that know the answers to these questions, but I guess I'm just going to have to lecture away here and give you all the answers. So what's probability? You know this, right? It's the likelihood or the chance of something happening. So when we talk, back here, I asked you, where'd that die go? One dice is a die, right? What's the probability of me spinning this and getting a 2? Am I going to get 2? No 2. What was the probability? I know lots of you know the answer is 1 over 6, isn't it? Okay, we're going to explain that to you. So probability is the likelihood of something happening. We got a couple other terms here. Outcomes. Outcomes are different ways an event can happen. So what I mean by that, let's think about the dice here. If I think of my event, if I think of my event as being rolling a die, what are some of the outcomes? Well, what are some of the different ways things could, what are different things that could happen? Well, I guess one thing that happened is it could get a 1, or it could get a 2, or it could get a 3, right? These are all outcomes when I roll a die. That takes us to the next one. What's the sample space? The sample space is all of the possible outcomes. So again, if we're talking about the die, what is the sample space? It's all the possible outcomes. So what are all the possible outcomes when you roll a die? You could get a 1, you could get a 2, you could get a 3, you could get a 4, you could get a 5, you could get a 6. So that's the sample space. Outcome is any number of those, right? 1 is an outcome, 2 is an outcome, 3 and 4 are outcomes. But if you're talking about the sample space, you have to list all of them. Okay, favorable outcomes. Now, this is kind of a problematic word, this word favorable, because when we think of favorable, we always think it like something good, right? Easter's favorable because we get chocolate, sort of thing. But in probability, it's not necessarily something good. Favorable outcomes are the events you're interested in. So I'm going to try to give you a weird example here to show that the ones you're interested in aren't necessarily good ones. Let's say that I played this game with my friend. Great game, played all the time with my friend. We roll a die, right? And if 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 come up, he pays me $10. But if the 6 comes up, he chops off one of my fingers. Oh, great game, great game. So I want to know what the probability of getting 6 is. So the way we write that, well, I'm just going to write this probability of 6. So if I was to try to figure that out, the favorable outcome, the ones I'm interested in, is getting 6. Now I hope you agree with me that the 6 isn't actually a good thing. Me getting my finger chopped off, not really that crazy about it. But the reason we call it favorable is because it's the one I'm interested in this case. I'm interested in what the chances are of getting a 6 when I roll the die. Okay? I just don't want you to think that favorable always means, oh, the good one, because favorable can be a bad outcome. It just happens to be the one that you're interested in. I hope that makes sense. Okay, what is the actual formula? So this is the most important thing. If you only write one thing down, please write this down. How do you figure out the probability? So, for example, I bet lots of you already knew when I asked you back here again, when I asked you what's the probability of spinning this die or rolling this die and getting a, what did I say, 2 or something? Well, I didn't get it. And a lot of you knew the probability is 1 out of 6. I bet a lot of you knew that. I hate this, how this always happens. So, how come the probability is 1 out of 6 when you roll a die? What are each one of those numbers? If I want to know the probability of rolling a 2, instead of writing the whole word probability, it takes too long. You just put capital P, and then what you're interested in, the favorable outcome, you put it in brackets. So the probability of rolling a 2 is 1 over 6. How come? What do each of those numbers mean? What's the bottom number refer to? That's the total number of outcomes, right? When I roll a dice, I can get a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, or a 6. I already wrote that up here somewhere. There we are. How many are the total right there? There's 6 of them. So that's the bottom number. What's the top number? That's how many of the outcomes are favorable. Well, in this case, the only favorable outcome is 2. There's only one of them, so it's 1 out of 6. So our formula is probability is equal to the number of favorable outcomes, the ones we're interested in, right, divided by the total number of outcomes. So just let me do one other example. Well, I'll do a bunch, but let's do one right here. If I was interested in the probability, again, rolling our dice, and getting 2 or 5. I want to know what the probability of 2 or 5. Okay, so let's take a look at the bottom number. How many total outcomes are there when you roll one die? 6. We just talked about that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, how many favorable outcomes are there? 2 is favorable, but 5 is also favorable, so this time it would be 2 out of 6 is our probability, which you then put in lowest terms, 1 over 3. Okay? Once you see a bunch of these, I think it'll, if you haven't figured it out yet, you'll get it when we do a few more of these and a few more of these. Okay, so coins. We're often talking about dice, coins, spinners, cards. Those are the main things we're talking about when we talk about probability in grade 8. So if I flip a coin, I want to know what the probability is of getting tails. So I'm going to put the probability of tails is equal to, okay, how many outcomes total are there when I flip a coin? Well, when I flip a coin, I can either get heads or I can get tails. That's it. There's only 2. Don't give me the, oh, it could land on its edge or something. This just does not happen in real life. So there's only 2 possible outcomes, heads or tails. Top number. How many favorable outcomes are there? Well, if I'm interested in the probability of getting tails, tails is the only favorable outcome. There's only one of those. So this is our probability, 1 over 2. All right, how can a probability be expressed? There's actually 3 ways you can express a probability. You'll notice so far what I've been doing for all these questions is I've been using fractions, and I'd say that's the most common. Please try to put your fractions in lowest terms. So notice I didn't stop at 2 over 6. I put it to 1 over 3. There's actually 2 other ways you can give a probability too. You could also give it as a decimal. So for example, with this coin question I just did here, instead of writing 1 over 2, what's 1/2 as a decimal? It's 0.5. So you could also say the probability of getting tails is 0.5. What's the third way you could give a probability? This is probably the least common, maybe. The third way you can do is you can give a percent. So 1/2 is equal to what is a percent? 50%. All 3 of these answers mean the same thing. Probability of getting tails is 1 over 2, which is equal to 0.5, which is equal to 50%. So when you're looking at your answer book and everything, you might want to sneak a peek and see which way they've expressed their answers, so then you can put yours in similar form to check your answer. All right, number 8, dice. Oh, well, we've just been dealing with dice a little bit here. What's the probability of getting 5? Well, again, don't think we have to spend too long on this because we just did it. How many different outcomes are there when we roll dice? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 of them. The only one we're interested in is 5. Don't put 5 up here, because how many favorable outcomes are there? Only one outcome is favorable. The 5 is the only one that is favorable. Okay, the probability of getting even. I don't know why I'm writing this down. It's written right there. Anyway, when you roll a die, how many possible outcomes are there? 6. This is always going to be 6. How many of them are even? You know your even numbers? 2, 4, 6, 8. Wait a minute, there's no 8. We're talking about a standard dice here. So that's it. 2, 4, 6. There's 3 favorable outcomes this time. So we get 3 out of 6. Happy with that answer? No way. We want it in lowest terms. So this would be 1 over 2. Okay, the probability of getting 9. I know, don't start screaming at me. I just want to show that it still works to do the same thing we've been doing. How many outcomes are there when you roll dice? 6. We've done this every single time. 6, 6, 6. 6, 6, 6. So how many favorable outcomes are there? The only favorable outcome is a 9. How many 9s are on a standard die? None. There is no 9. There is no 9 on a die. So we get 0 over 6 as our probability. Guess what we can put that as? 0, right? Or 0% if you want. All right, spinners. So here's our spinner right here. If I was to spin this spinner, what's the probability of getting red? How many total outcomes are there? There's red, there's yellow, there's green, there's blue. There's only 4 outcomes. So that's my bottom number. How many of those are favorable? In other words, how many of them are red? Only one of those sections is red. 1 out of 4 is our answer. Or 25% or 0.25. What's the probability of getting a color? What the? Okay, let's think about this. How many possible outcomes are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, just like before. How many of them are favorable? Is red favorable? Is that a color? Yeah, it is. Is yellow favorable? Is that a color? Yeah, it is. Is green a color? Yes, it is. Is blue a color? Yes, it is. All of these are colors. So our number of favorable outcomes is 4 to 4. If you put that in lowest terms, you get 1. What's that as a percentage, by the way? 100%. Okay, you have a 100% chance of getting a red one. Hope that makes sense. You spin this, you're getting a red one. Sorry. You have a 100% chance of getting a colored section here. You spin this thing, you're getting a color. Okay, what's the probability of getting green or yellow? So, how many total outcomes are there? We count them all up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, same answer we got here, same answer we got here, same answer we got here. 4. How many are favorable? Is red favorable? No, we want green or yellow. Is yellow favorable? Yes. Is green favorable? Yes. Is blue favorable? No. So how many were? The yellow and the green. 2 out of 4. Happy with that? No. We want this to be in lowest terms. Or 50%, or 0.5. Any of those 3 answers work for me. Okay, what's the probability of not blue? Oh, interesting. Okay, works the same way. Bottom number, total number of outcomes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Every single one of these questions has 4 on the bottom. Okay, favorable ones are not blue. Is this favorable, the red? Yes, that's not blue. Is this yellow one favorable? Yes, that's not blue. Is this green one favorable? Yes, it's not blue. Is this blue one favorable? No, blue is blue. It's not blue. So these 3 are favorable. 3 to 4 is your answer, or 75%, or 0.75. Okay, probability can be as small as, what's the smallest number you can get? 0, right? That's the smallest you can get. What's the biggest you can get? Okay, let's do this in percents. 0% is the smallest. The biggest you can get is 100%. It doesn't make sense for something to be 110% probable. It does not make sense. If you do it in decimals, this would be from 0 up to 1. What does 0% mean? 0% means that this is not happening. Me rolling a die and getting a 9 is not happening. It's impossible, basically. What does it mean if something's 100%? That means it must happen. Me rolling a die, or me spinning the spinner and getting one of those colors, getting a color, it must happen. There only is colors on here. So 0% not happening, 100% must happen. We've got to skip to number 12. I put these questions in the wrong order. What's the sum of the probabilities of all the outcomes in a sample space? Toughest question that we're going through today. If I added up all the probabilities, do you know what it will always add up to? So for example, What's the probability in the spinner of getting red? Getting red was 1 over 4. We got that right here. What's the probability of getting yellow? 1 over 4. Green, 1 over 4. And blue, 1 over 4. If I added those all up, I'll just do that down here. If I added up the 1 over 4 plus the 1 over 4 plus the 1 over 4 plus the 1 over 4, what do I get? Well, the denominator stays the same. I had 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. I get 4 over 4, which is the same as 1. Oh, the sum should always be 1. Or if you're doing percents, 100%. Has to always add up to 100%. So with that in mind, if the probability of something happening is 0.3, what's the probability of it not happening? Remember, it always has to add up to 1. So if the probability of it happening is 0.3, then it has to be 0.3 plus something, and it has to equal 1. Hey, we could use a little algebra here. Why don't we subtract 0.3 from both sides? So we get question mark equals 1 minus 0.3. The answer is 0.7. That makes sense, right? 0.3 plus 0.7 equals 1. And it always has to equal 1. Or 100% if you're doing percents. If we're doing percents, this would say 30%. If the probability of something happening is 30%, the probability of it not happening are 70%. And that adds up to 100%. All right, everyone. I know that was pretty fast, but that's the way it works. Watch the video again if you need to. Send me questions. I can help you out. There's only one last thing to do. Tell you what your assignment is. Oh, but wait. I wanted to go over this question with you. If I was to spin this spinner, what's the probability of getting 3? Now, here's a very common mistake people make. They say, all right, I want to know what the probability is getting 3. So how many outcomes are there here? 1, 2, 3. So there's 3 outcomes. How many of them are favorable? The only favorable outcome is the 3 here. So it's 1 out of 3 is your answer, right? Wrong. What's wrong about that? What's wrong is they're not all equal chances, right? The one has a way bigger chance than the other ones. I mean, if I spun this blue arrow here, I'd be more likely to get the 1 than the other ones. So anyone see what I should do? I should kind of put like a line across. This section up here is number 1, and this section down here is also number 1. So it actually ends up there's 4 sections here. So if I wanted to know what the probability is of getting our 3, how many total sections are there? 1, 2, 3, 4 possibilities. How many of them are favorable for the 3? Just 1. Now, what if I want to know the probability of getting a 1? There's still 4 sections. How many sections are favorable this time? This one's favorable and this one's also favorable. It'd be 2 over 4. So we'd have a 1/2 chance, or 1/2 probability of spinning a 1. Okay, I just wanted to make note of that. So here's your assignment. I'm going to send you a workbook page. It's not from your workbook, it's from a different workbook. And you'll see at the top it's going to say page 272, and then it's going to say chapter 7. And after that, it's going to say something about data analysis and probability. Anyway, it'll be the only workbook page I send you, so it shouldn't be too confusing. So on that page 272, you're going to do numbers 1 to 7, and you're also going to do 9 to 10. Now remember, this won't be the only work you get this week. I'm hoping you can get that done by Wednesday. Then I'm going to send you another video much shorter than this on Wednesday and give you a few more questions. It won't be too many more. And you'll have both this assignment and that Wednesday assignment ready to hand in to me on Friday. You'll send me photos and send that to me. Okay, so this isn't it until Friday. You have more coming, a little bit more. Okay, there won't be too much more on Wednesday. One last thing, and one of the questions talks about NS, like this. This means the number of outcomes in the sample space. So if we were talking about rolling a die, what's NS for rolling a die? Oh, my writing. In other words, how many items are in the sample space? Well, the sample space is all the outcomes. So rolling a die would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Oh, there's 6. The number in the sample space is 6. That's the total number of outcomes. If I was talking about flipping a coin, then what would NS be? Well, when I flip a coin, the sample space is only heads and tails, so the size of the sample space is just 2. Okay? Again, I apologize for having to do it this way. It'd be much easier if, some of you had questions. I'm sure some of you do. If you could put your hand up and ask me right away what the answer is. We'll just have to be patient. Send me questions right away. Don't worry. There's no stupid questions. There's no stupid text to send me. Just send them off, and I'll answer all your questions. All right, everyone. I'll look forward to giving you the next lesson on Wednesday, and good luck with it. And I wish we were in class together. This would be much more enjoyable. Take care.